Hello, hello. Welcome. Happy Wednesday, September 17th, 2025. LD Industries. Hello. Hi, hi. Russell, I do not play the bagpipes. Uh, yeah. Um, Juicy Lucy, Ellen, how are you doing? All right. Um, it's been a long day already. 2 o'clock. I could take a nap. That would be great. Thanks. Um, Dawn, hello. YouTube is rocking. We got some testing to do today. Egg bites. I don't, I don't know where you guys come up with these things. Glenn, how you doing? Welcome in. Um, I really want this jewel to come off of this 51. That would be great. It's always the case of, someone sends you in multiple pens and then they all go pretty smoothly and then one doesn't. And then that just drives you nuts because you're holding everything. It gets held up because of one stinking pen. Um, so we'll take a look at that today. We've got the Waterman that we need to just to try to make me laugh. Yeah, we have the Waterman that we're gonna reassemble, put together. I am certain that the multitude of problems with that yesterday that it had was the reason it was leaking all over the place. So, let's see. In other news, let's see. I got a shipment of Girologio in today, including some of the new colors. The cobalt. Yeah, I see that it's freezing up here. It could be on my end. Let me check here. Okay, now it says excellent. It's weird because it looked like it could have been on my end here. Do you guys you all see me now? YouTube shows me good to go, but this is kind of how my day is going. Yeah. Okay. All right. The turbo fell off its wheel. Oh Lord, we just need to get into repairing pens and then get done with this nonsense. So anyway, uh, I don't know where it froze up, but anyway, we got some Girologio in today in the new colors, and they look great. They look great. Um, Basically 1 through 12 pen cases. I'm thinking about. I wanted to see them first because I'm thinking I want one of the 48s in the blue for myself, just for a little something different. And I didn't feed the dribble this morning. No, I, I I don't know what it is. I went to bed at like. We got home yesterday, like about 7. About 7 o'clock. Made dinner. By the time we are done with dinner, it's like 8 o'clock. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna go upstairs. I'm gonna watch. I'm way behind on watching the Vuelta a España, and I put it on, and I promptly fell asleep while watching TV. And Lisa's like, just go to sleep. Don't sit there and try to stay. No, I'm like doing this. Um, So I went to bed at like 9:30. Woke up at, I don't know, 6. You think that'd have been enough, but not, apparently not. So, all right, let's hop into this here. Let's take a look at what we got. Do do do. Let's do this one first because we can kind of get this done and it can go home, which would be nice for the client. He's had such a Indy. Good afternoon. He's had such a rough go of this pen getting repaired, and probably a. I'm sure it's going to be a great writer. We need a GoFundMe page for the gerbil. Aye aye. I'm missing my loop. I think I left it on my other table. Hang on. All right. Always fun to ink up a Waterman of this era. Yeah, that's nice. What we could do, yesterday you looked up that Waterman on eBay. Someone had one for 29 bucks. Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, it might have been opening bid. 452s don't sell for 29 bucks. I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna leave it in inked in the tray. I don't know. I don't recall how long it took for the problem to happen, but I'm certain it's this. I'm certain that's the problem. We're gonna leave that. Maybe we'll try it at the end of the stream, and we'll see if there's any issues at all with it. Okay. Let's bring these back into the fold. And then we'll work on these a little bit, and then we can get going on Ellen's nurse pens here. If that Waterman's still selling for 29 bucks, if it's a buy it now, definitely buy it now. Any tips on working out if an old nib is screw or friction fit? Soak like crazy and wiggle. Are you talking about the nib itself, or are you talking about the section? Because most vintage pens, the nib and feed are friction fit, and they need to be knocked out from the back. Do not try to wiggle them out the front. Nib and feed, yeah. Don't. Most of them, almost all vintage nibs, with some exceptions. Some Schaefers, there's some walls. Esterbrook obviously are threaded, but almost all of them, like pretty much every Parker, friction fit. If you happen to know what pen and model it is, we can probably narrow it down a little better for you. Yeah, but you need a knockout block. Which is what this is here. It has various sizes in it, and then you take the section off and you put the section in there. Find a hole that fits the width of the nib in the feed, so it's got room to, when you knock it out, it falls through. But yet is big enough for the section to fit on top of it. So I actually don't have. Do I have anything here? Yeah. So like here's a skyline. Now I would take this. Generally inexpensive lever pills. They're all most certainly they're friction fit. So you would take this out. I haven't taken this apart yet, but then you would find like that's tight. Like I would use maybe that hole, and once I had this off, if it has a breather tube on it, If the breather tube comes out, that's good. If not, then you need a hollow punch to slide over the breather tube to knock out. And sometimes the breather tubes are brittle, so even if they do come out, sometimes what you don't want to do is you don't want to break it. If you break it off, then you got to drill it out so that you can put the remainder back, provided you have enough. Enough of a breather tube left. RB Pickett, hello. So the one thing that's different about PFMs than standard snorkels is the piece that the snorkel tube fits in, which I can never remember what the heck the name of that sack protector bushing, I think is what it's called. From Corolla, rating with 10. Hello, everyone. The sack protector bushing, that's what it's called. I always call it the stopper. Hello, Paw Pal Girl, Bauhaus. Welcome. On the PFM, it's just a round piece. And yet, the sack protector bushing still utilizes these notches which slide into hello Olive, how are you doing? Olive Octopus. Which slide into the back half, kind of see it there, of the section. Hello from Corolla. So on a regular snorkel, the sack protector bushing has these little, love it or hate it, it has these little ridges in place so you know which way it goes in, right? And then you adjust your snorkel tube to fit. But on a PFM, the bushing is round. So it makes it difficult to get it. You got to get it right, because one of the things that is preferable is that you don't take the tube out. If you take the tube out, or if the tube comes out, you run the risk of the hole getting ever so slightly larger, which means that this is now a little bit loose, which means if there's any friction at all through the point holder gasket, it can pull, it can lengthen, and it ends up never being the right length, regardless of how many times you set it. So while this is actually easier, every time you drop in the stream, you always learn something new. Yeah, good. This is way easier to get in. Getting it out is, it's without pushing it through the back and destroying the sack. It's a challenge, which means you'll have to essentially loosen the grip on the snorkel tube to move it. So I left this little piece of schmutz here on the tab, so I knew that was kind of straight up, and it's not quite lined up perfectly with the slit in the center of the nib. So I'm trying to line up. It was just offset a little bit. I line up the slit in the tube just a little bit offset here. And we're going to cross our fingers that it goes well, because you can't really rotate it, so if it doesn't work out, then we're just going to have to break the seal essentially on the snorkel tube and pray for the best. So I'm going to heat this up, which will make it infinitely easier to push in, because it's just big piece of rubber. And I make a big deal out of that because if you're restoring a pen and you manage to get the bushing and the snorkel tube out without having to disturb the bushing or the snorkel tube, number one, in theory, you don't have to worry about the depth setting. Right? It's already set right. Assuming it was thanks for the follow, Paw Pal Gal. Say that 10 times fast. Assuming it was good to begin with, the setting was good to begin with, you don't have to mess with it. That part of the job is done. You just have to get it straight. And this one has the added aggravation of having the center bits here crimped in. So to get it out, you have to kind of get a little tiny screwdriver in there to kind of let those loose. But it inevitably ends up being a hassle. When it comes time to putting it back in. In theory, yeah. Yeah. In theory. There's a whole lot of theory involved in pen repair. And if you've got a knockout block, it's really great for this, as long as you're careful about it. Now I've got it almost all the way in. I've put a hole in my finger here practically. Yeah, crossing your fingers and hope for the best. All right. Theory, patience, and a knockout block. A holy trinity. That's right. That's right, Juicy Lucy. All right. And if we've opened those up, then we want to crimp them down again. So I just take a screwdriver. So at least they're not proud of the sack protector. Now I'm just going to kind of clean up the mess here. Just a little bit of grease on there. Don't get it in the hole there. Yeah, and for some reason, I know not, it does this. It's not lined up right. So, despite my best intentions, it's actually rotated counterclockwise a little bit. So I'm just gonna have to sometimes it's easier if it's loose in the bushing. You can rotate it, and I have it by the tip. I've got. I mean, you don't want to do it by the. I mean, you got maybe a couple millimeters that you can move here. If it's loose, you can rotate it, and then it just makes it easy to line up, or easier. If it's not loose, then you run the risk of twisting it. These are no, these are specialty pliers. You see, it's got they're rounded slots, and we're not doing it on the nib. They're rounded slots that fit perfectly the snorkel tube. Hello, Fuzzy. These are the best. If you're going to do snorkels, you need this tool. You just need to invest in it. It has two sides: Triumph nib, and then the open side, because the depth is a little bit different. They're amazing. They're not cheap. There's like $65 plus shipping, but you need them. You have to have them. There was life before the pliers, and then there's been life since the pliers, and life since the pliers is infinitely better. I actually have an old set. These were handmade, and I forget where I got these, but this is the same, essentially a very similar tool, where a groove has been cut on the inside of these parallel pliers. The problem is this doesn't have a measure point. So this has a measuring point. Probably should just put those in my toolbox. I don't ever use them. It's got this block right here to measure how far the snorkel tube needs to be out of the sack protector bushing. Were these pliers made for this application originally? These are a modern tool. I don't know. I don't know what Schaefer would have used if they even had something like it. But these are, yeah, it is a big investment. Um, but if you're going to do more than one snorkel, you amortize the cost, and it's not too bad. All right, so that seems good. I don't sell these. These are made by Dale Beebe from Pen Tooling. Dale's got like a lot of really great tools. I should get a commission for how often I talk about his site. Yeah, in the long term, it is. Hello, Spicy. In long term, it is useful if you're going to do multiples. Yeah, it reminds me of ages ago, probably 25 years ago now. I had a conversation with Joel Hamilton, and I said, "What do you think about getting a pair of vac pliers?" He says, "Well, are you just going to do one, or are you going to do lots of them?" And at the time, I was thinking, I'm not going to. Why would I want to do lots of them? And he said, well, and in the case of the vac tools, there's multiple options. There's cheap ones, there's better ones, there's really great ones, different designs. There's a lot of different tools. But he says, if you're planning on doing more than one or two, spend the money, get the good tool. It'll pay for itself over not having to be frustrated every time with a cheap tool. The way I see it, looking at my parents, sure, you don't want the most expensive stuff, but at the very least, don't go cheap. The breaks and be a waste of money. Yeah, I mean, or as how do they say it? If you're poor, you can't afford to buy cheap stuff. Um, I don't know. If this is probably never going to break. I hope it never does. I mean, if it does, I'll just get another one. But assuming Dale's still around by the time when it breaks. Um, you keep looking at Dale's Parker cap tools. Yeah. Every about 9 months, 9 to 12 months, I go on his site and I create a list of tools that I need to buy, and then I end up spending a couple $100, and then I'm good for a while, and then he comes out with some new tools, and then I spend more money. It's like watching surgery happen. It's an odd visit to the underbelly of a pen. I'm always fascinated watching repair work. It's fun. All right. Yeah, if you go cheap, you better be sure it's good. That's the way you see it. Or as a friend of mine said, if you don't do it right the first time, you sure as heck going to find the time to do it right the second time. So, we're going to test that. This guy should be ready to test. We just have the cap. If this tests good, if it feels good, then we can seal it up. And just as I suspected, you can see the tube is sitting proud of the feet. So we are not ready to test. We just need to push it in a little bit. So we use the Triumph side, and then it ends at that spot, and you can see there's a little bit of a gap here. So in theory, this should sit flush with the sac protector tube, so it's out by about that much. Hans, you're back. Just checking briefly while waiting at the cell phone lot at the airport. You're at the airport. Are you picking somebody up? What are you doing at the airport? Last I knew, you were having lunch. Oh, you're picking up your neighbors. Okay. Like, if you're coming to Wisconsin, you got to give me more than, 3 hours notice, because I got to clean up the house. I got to find all the pen stuff. You could sleep with me. Well, you'd be happy to know that the day bed is very close to where some of the pens are. Just a little bit too further. Yeah. Oh, this office. You want to sleep here? Yeah. No, you don't want to sleep here. There's no beer here. It's just a smidge. I got it closer. It's a smidge too far in still. Like a half a millimeter, maybe. I mean, it's a really picky thing. If you had issues with those pliers not correctly aligning the snorkel tube, I found it tends to be sticking out too much. Then on the next bend, it's in too far. Yeah, it's I have found that. It's a best guess. Um, like in this case, I pushed it in all the way, and it was too far in. What would happen if it's too far in? Then it just looks. I mean, nothing. But um, it's gonna. If it's too far in, your distance between the tip of the nib and the end of the snorkel tube is much shorter, and it looks goofy. And I'm being hyper picky here. Because that's where I want it, and that's where it is now. So, what I might do is put a dab of shellac on there just to make sure that doesn't move. But let's test it first. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's better than, I was, before you chimed in, I had this tool, which was handmade by I forget who. Where they ground out a slot on these parallel pliers, but there's no stop, so you have no idea. I mean, it goes all the way back to here. This is I don't know. These might be Mike Crut pliers or something like that. I don't know. Well, now that I've said that, I hope when you get this back, you're not like, well, you know what? It could be about a 16th of a millimeter out. Slumberland Studio, hello. Happy Wednesday. Wow, it looks good. It looks good. When it's in the right spot, it looks good. Nice. Yeah, that works. Anybody in the chat, either side, Penn World subscribers? There's some great tool makers out there. Scott and a guy from India making Parker adapters. Good to see skilled people innovating. Yeah, yeah. The October issue, which is being finalized as we speak, will have a little small article about our new venture. I just got the final proof today. I do kind of find it funny that I have to go like buy the magazine, like they don't send you one. Uh, but I guess I I don't mean this to sound the way it's going to sound, but I've lost count of how many times we've been in Penn World. And, I don't even know if I have. I think I have all the copies somewhere. Yeah, we get the digital proof, and then that's kind of it. Well, for the second PFM you found in the wild, this one's a nice one. So the question is are you going to keep it for your collection, or are you going to sell it? Some creepy person asked you to autograph the photo of you the last time you were in Penn World. It was weird. You know, I used to have a problem with that. It doesn't happen often. It's not, we are not in the same category as, you know, professional athletes and need to run, be back in 30, 40 minutes. All right. We're not in the same category as professional athletes and movie stars and things like that. But every once in a while, you get somebody who asks for your autograph, and I used to kind of brush it off, and I was talking with a therapist at the time, and I told him about it. He's like, "What do you care? What do you care if they want your autograph? Give them the autograph. If they're that enamored, make their day, make them happy. If they're nice about it, do it." And I thought about it. I said, you know what? You're right. Well, of course he's right. He's my therapist. Yeah, I mean, if they're weird about it, then it's, I mean, if everybody's cool, then, it's like, yeah, just do it, and um, it changes the whole atmosphere about it. Fancy bottle by Groff. Yeah, this is my famous shellac bottle. I probably would get in trouble. Um, Groff von Faber-Castell was not happy with me. Um, they once did everything short of a cease and desist because I was selling empty bottles. And they said, well, you can't sell that because that's not how they come. I can do with my empty bottles whatever I want. You're not going to tell me what to do. Um, but I always tell people if you're going to put if you want a shellac bottle and you do a lot of repairs, this is the best bottle on the planet. Get yourself one. Take off the Supreme Court says you can. Yeah. I said, well, I don't. Groff doesn't sell ink samples either, and I sell those. You're not. I'm not going to stop selling those just because you say it's not how it comes. You'd be really happy with $1 million. I think we pacified him for a very short period of time, and I said, you know what, this is BS. Yeah, the most he can do is cut me off. Yeah, yeah. I like Groff. Not bad mouthing Groff, but and this was like This was not the U.S. distributor. This was like Germany. They were like upset. Like, all right, here goes. I think I think this pen requires further examination. Look at that. Oh, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. It's probably just a broad. This paper is a little bit I mean, I don't know. That's I don't know what that is. Um that's fantastic. That's really fantastic. All right, so we really have to get that jewel off now because Hans is never going to believe me if I say, well, it's going to take another 6 months for that jewel to come off. Yeah, that is a fire hose. And I did it again. See, I always forget to hold down and pull up. Prevent spillage. Airport always takes forever. Glad they did today so you can see the writing sample. Did I seal that? I did seal that up, didn't I? No, I didn't. Did you dip that nib before, Hans, or is this the first time you've actually seen it written with? You guessed a little bit right. Yeah, that was awesome. All right, so the hood has got a little bit of a like a little bit of a dip in it. We're just gonna see if we can heat it out. It could be shrinkage. It could be. I honestly forget what amount of force it took to get the hood off in the first place. See you later. Did remember to clean my polish cloth here, my handkerchief, my lucky handkerchief, which is quickly getting a little threadbare. Just trying to clean up the last little bit of shellac that may have seeped out of the joint. While we're at it, let's do the rest of this here. This is the easy part. That part's done. What is my favorite pen to repair or restore? Good question. Any pen that comes apart and goes back together easily. That's my favorite pen to repair or restore. No, that's not true. I like vacs. Interestingly enough, I'm not. I like the mechanics of the Vacuumatic and how it comes apart. I'm just not, it's not something I would ever collect. 51 vacs maybe. I don't mind snorkels. I've done enough Esterbrooks for 3 lifetimes. Almost every repair is different though. It's each one's got its own unique challenge. I do like vacs though, because if you can get them apart, uh, you really can. You can get them apart. 50, yeah, 51 vac, baby. Everything comes apart so nicely. You can put it back together and you can be up and running really quick. Because in a perfect world on a vac, there's almost no, short of the section, whether it be a 51 vac hood or a regular vacuumatic, a stripe vacuumatic section, that's the only joint that you need shellac for. Everything, you don't have to wait. Oh, what I need, I wonder if this would help. I know this isn't going to work, but once every 4 months, 6 months, I try this because I think this is going to work, and it just doesn't work. It needs to be reverse threaded, is what it needs to be. If I can hold it there and then. Because when I heat this up, it's too hot to hang on to, but this is what happens every time. I go, yeah, it's not going to work. This is maybe my least favorite repair job right here. I don't care how many of these I do. I don't care how old I am. When one of those comes out, man, do I hate that. All right. And Hans wasn't even here to see it. He's doing his neighbor a solid, picking him up from the airport. All right. Well, we'll put this, you know, I don't know what we're going to do with that. Yeah, I'll watch the video. Yeah. I'll send him a text. I'll tell him that the jewel snapped off. No, I'm not going to say that because number one, it's not in the pen yet. So anything can happen. We're only half done. Um, but you can see if you've never done this job before, and I'm not surprised if you haven't. This is how small of a part we're talking about. And you can see more than half of it has been covered in some kind of adhesive. And it looks just like a little tiny mushroom. Threaded mushroom. So putting it on, we're going to be no. This is the cap jewel, or as it's more correctly termed, the clip screw bushing. I'll try to get as much of this old shellac off as possible so it threads back in nicely. Cap stuff you leave well enough on. Well, you know, it's a case of if you've got a loose clip, I mean, you have to get this part off. And inevitably, it ends up being you end up, because people use adhesive for some dumb reason. It ends up, this is what's called the clip screw, which holds the clip on. It ends up staying attached to this part, to the clip screw, which you need it off so that you can tighten it. Now, this is an extra, so we don't have to worry about that. We've already got the clip screw is nice and tight in here. The clip is tight. You know, if you want to take dents out of a cap, you got to get this part off. And you have to be careful not to over tighten it, because if you over tighten it, you'll just end up twisting the whole thing off. Glue is like announcing defeat in repair, yeah. So now the hope is, and what you can't see is when I'm doing this, is I'll hold it like this. So I hold it over the heat. If my heat gun is here, from the bottom. Because if you hold it over the top, you're going to burn the top and you're going to melt it. So you hold it from here in the hope that the heat's it's going to heat up the back of the clip screw, which will warm all around the stem of the jewel to soften the adhesive. If you burn the bottom of the jewel, no big deal, because you're never going to see it. It just has to, you have to be able to get it out. So I hold it like that over the heat. But the problem is you get, sometimes it gets a little bit too hot and it warps. Will the ultrasonic work on the jewel to get rid of the glue? Well, sometimes it does. Yeah, I mean, there's lots of different techniques you can try. My latest is naphtha in a shot glass, which I then put in the ultrasonic. I can dump them in water, and if it just doesn't come out, fine glue often gives way to flush, followed by an injection prep wipe. And sometimes you just don't know what adhesive has been used. And when it gets nice and flush, you stop. Because if you try to tighten it down just a little bit more, that stem is where it's going to be, and then you just end up twisting the whole top off. It's not perfect, but it's, I mean, you'd be hard pressed to see how I consider this not perfect. It looks pretty good. I mean, the cap itself is, we fixed this up a little while ago. It still has, tiny dings, and um but as a user, this is a, I mean, it's fantastic. It's really going to be a fantastic pen. I'm kind of sad that um he left and didn't get to see it finished. So but that's all right. So that's good to go. This is good to go. We'll have to. I just like to wait. If you move this snorkel tube, your carriage is about ready to turn into a pumpkin. See you another time. All right, take care. I certainly understand that. If you move the tube, I like to make sure you put a little dab of shellac in there just to make sure it's gonna fill in that little hole, and you're good to go. So there's his parts. Let's just wipe this down and put this in the bag, and we're done with this guy. Um, I guess that makes up for the crappy morning I had. So, all right. One more day. Tomorrow we'll put that together. And then Hans and I will begin the long, lengthy process of trying to debate over who owes who what. Because I've got a pen for him. He's got some stuff with me. Um, he was considering selling this PFM. So if anybody's interested in the PFM, which was kind of a nice fine medium nib, shoot me an email. If he decides to sell it, then we'll get in touch with you. One of us anyway. All right. There's that. It's been an hour and a half already. Let's see how this is faring here real quick. Yeah, we're really pretty good on this. This has been probably at least an hour it's been sitting here. I don't see any signs of leakage on the section. There was a couple spots on the nib from being filled. We're going to call this one done. And it feels excellent. Nice amount of fluid that it holds, even with that 16 sack. Almost too long to fit in there. I'm going to polish up the section just a little bit. Just because there was some ink residue, I think, from the cap. There you can see it, the blue. Your 3 o'clock was a no-show. Well, that wasn't very nice of them. Better. And just to be safe, let's just on the inside here. I don't see any ink on there, so it's probably fine. The Mr. G's really did a nice job of cleaning this out. Dr. G's. Sorry. Not a good impression for a peer-to-peer interview. Oops. Well, hopefully there was nothing seriously wrong that caused that, but so yeah, there we go. That guy's done. But won't he be happy to get this back? I know I hate it. You know, I hate when I had these pens, I hated not having them writing. A little bit of a clip issue there. You got Did you watch the replay or how do you know? There we go. That guy's done. Boy, is he going to be happy. He's going to be happy with this. Oh, you replayed it quickly. You know, there's a point when you're reheating it where you see it get soft. And it is the most nerve-wracking moment because it either goes incredibly bad or it might come off. And it came off. So, all right. These have been taken forever to get done, haven't they? I don't know if I've done anything with these. So your Hans, your pens will be I'll seal up that PFM tomorrow. I put just a little dab of the shellac on that snorkel tube, and then I'll seal it up for you tomorrow, and it'll be good to go. And then we can begin the long process of negotiation of who owes who what. It's kind of the fun part though. Reminds me of when I was in college and had roommates, and then you would say, okay, well, you're going to split everything 50-50 and you're going to split the jewels. Yeah, we'll both be happy, Dan. I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried at all. And like you'd buy the groceries so that you'd put that on your side of the equation, and then the other person would pay the light bill, and then you'd pay the water bill, and then at the end it would be like, okay, we add it all up, and then I'm behind by $30, so my rent portion of the rent check is $30 extra, or whatever it is. I'm just glad to get. I'm happy when repairs come in, and I'm happy when repairs go out. It's that middle time when they're being repaired or when they can't. But who owns the mustard? I don't eat mustard, so anybody can have it. But it's that point where you've got pens that they just won't open, or you can't fix something, or you're waiting on something, or I have 3 over here. One of them is done. The second one, I could probably solve the problem just by replacing at, I won't say significant cost, but a significant increase in price to the repair, the vac unit. And the other one just won't open up, which I have a plan for. I just haven't gotten around to doing it. But you have to freeloading housemate, you had to drink 3/4 of the pitcher of margaritas every time and then forgot his wallet. Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm not that guy. I am Hans, I am gonna pay you for that one pen though. um, that you sent, and then we'll square all the rest of this stuff. We'll balance it out. But I'm going to pay you for that one because um, it'll drive Lisa mad if I play that into the game. It just drives her nuts. Her bookkeeping is yeah. So I'll probably do that. I couldn't remember. You have to text me what the amount is again. I couldn't find it, and I can't search on my phone. Maybe you can't do it on your phone. Apparently, you can do it on your desktop, but you don't live far from the Mustard Museum. I'm not surprised there is one. Middleton. Oh, okay. Yeah, actually, now that I think about it, hang on. Let me see. Oh, I found it. I found it. Um, I can search for my desktop. I just can't search for my phone, and I always use my phone, right? So, if there's a way you can search texts, I would love to know how to do that from your phone. You live close enough to the cheese curtain, you can almost throw a rock across it. The cheese curtain. The Wisconsin state line. Is that what we're calling it now? The cheese curtain? I lived here a long time. I've never heard anybody call it that. Now, Hans, the real question is you have to decide, do you want that super weird combo stamp Victorian thing? And let me tell you, I will make you an offer you can't refuse on that thing. And if you say no, I might send it to you anyway. Just because I don't know what to do with it. Insert Godfather Museum. Of course, I have to be careful because if I send him something weird, I know darn well that there's going to be a package someday coming to my house. And there's going to be something equally as strange in it. And, you just can't send it back. You kind of do since it's weird. Well, let me tell you, it's going to be the right price. Boy, this is just disgusting. Look at this. You really almost ought to consider just replacing this whole barrel. You need to be careful, you lot of weird shit. I know you do. I've seen your lamps. This man has the strangest lamps of anybody I've ever seen. And matching vase. You saw the coolest old inkwell on the internet was a snail shape and it rolled up close and rolled down. You said, oh yeah, those are somewhat. It's like glass and then it's got a brass. It sits in a brass base or something. Yeah, those are relatively common. Yeah. Well, common in the sense of. I scare myself sometimes. I had a customer came in once, and I don't remember the exact specifics, but um, they were a big fan of some TV show, and he's one of my regulars, and he came in with his daughter, and they watched this TV show, and they had seen some vintage pen, pen spotting as it was. In the show. And I took about a 5-second look at it and I'm like, oh yeah, that's a Waterman 304 or something, something goofy like that. I don't remember what it was. I think it was a Waterman or early Waterman, early Parker or something with the, might have been a filigree. I don't remember. And yeah, sure enough, that's what it was. We looked it up. I said, well, the good news is that's what it is. The bad news is it's going to cost you a lot of money to get one. Another thing added to the list of things to look for. It's a very long list. Yeah, check the opening for damage. You rejected the first two because you saw chips, huh? Okay. I haven't seen one of those at an antique store in a long time. Well, this thing is just. I got a half intention of taking this lever out and soaking this. It's that bad. You once sent a joke gift to the roommate of a friend of yours. For some reason, the guy thought I was rich and he wanted to borrow 50 grand to start a business. I got hold of Foreign currency. In $5 million paper. Nice. Cost you $20. Well, now we've put barrels and springs in Dr. G's before. Fred almost fell out of his chair laughing. He wanted the change back. I wonder if the first thing I'm going to do before I do that, because it's so bad. It's I mean, you can't even see, this is black here. It's actually kind of like a bluish green from ink. I mean, these rails in here should be yellow. He says it's safe. Um, that one's good. It's just for and that's how it is sometimes. You get a really pretty rare pen, and it's a complete disaster. But I want to check if I have another barrel. All right, I do have other barrels, so it's literally it's the cap that makes the pen rare. So let's try it, huh? And just so we have this on video of how bad this is. And especially right up there, you can see that. It should be, you should see that it should be yellow. And then the inside just kind of nasty. All right, time check, 3:52. This is not as bad, but problem with these. Can't see that. I just stood it up because the threads are really, really pretty munchy. Speaking of weird nominations. Lisa came across some Mexican currency. And I want to say it was 50, I could be wrong. 50,000 peso bill. And apparently Mexico stopped using that particular bill because it was so frequently counterfeited that they took it out of circulation and no bank will accept it. It's worthless now. I think it was like, it was equivalent to almost $500. We're like, cool. We got a Turkish lira. Yeah, it was kind of a bummer. Like, oh, cool. Because we had a couple of them, 2 or 3 of them or something. Our bank would take everything else, but they wouldn't take that 50,000 peso note. Maybe it was 300. I can't remember how much it was worth. Yeah, he could have bought a lot of tequila for that. Like, nobody told me. It was a real pretty note. I mean. Sadly, the rest of the denominations we had was probably worth about $1. So we were like, yeah, forget it. So over here, maybe you can see it. I'm just going to see if I can stand this up. As long as I don't bump the table, we're in good shape. In Maine being next to Canadian border, most retail business will take Canadian coins up to and including a 25-cent coin, and I treat it as a U.S. coin. Oh, okay. Oh, looks like it probably cleaned most of these, or they were really in good shape. All right, since it's a nurse pen, it's SJ size. It uses the little spacer. If you've got the original bar. Perfect. You have a few foreign coins you buy from the cash drawer at work. Sometimes the cashiers were not paying attention and taking coins. The boss would get upset with them. You know, I do miss the having the cash register, because every once in a while, you know, you'd get a nice. I mean, I grab every weed penny, you know, that comes through. I mean, I've been doing that for 40 years, right? Even someone had to use a bridge token to pay for a purchase. Oh, that's just. My favorite was the day, I think it was a Swedish family came in, and they paid for everything in silver certificates. A little better. If you miss coins, I will pay for my next order with rolls of coin. I don't know, man. Maybe not. I don't know. I miss the little daily hunt through the cash drawer. Sock full of pennies, and I could roll them myself. You guys, come on. You want to really agitate me? Make sure they're all pens that I wouldn't, or coins that I wouldn't ever take to the bank. And then I have to replace them with my own money. So it would cost me money. Ration coin chains during World War II, they made of like a fiber material. I don't know. You have a lot of silver coins. We can do the most complicated trade ever with them. I guarantee that if that ever came to light, Lisa would never talk to you again. Nor me, and I would be moving into your place. So if you thought you were short of space before, that's it. Out of here. I can just see the look on her face. I could just see it. And I'm nervous just imagining it. I thought the trade in Chicago was complicated enough. You'd rather not get me in trouble. Stream it. Oh, you're terrible. You're terrible. Streaming Brian getting in trouble. It'd be the most watched Cardinal Pens video of all time. All right, what do we think? We think 16 minutes. Once you traded silver $half for Japanese pens, it took a week to figure out values. It was as much fun as it was tedious. We both are happy. Yeah. This goes to show you can trade anything for anything. I don't think it's long enough. But we'll scrub some of this out first. This pen is worth investing a little extra time on. It's just super tedious. I'm going to soak that in there a little bit more. It occurred to me, I think it was this morning, that I think our pen club meeting is this Sunday. I'm supposed to be giving a presentation. I guess I need to prepare for that. If anybody's going to be in the Appleton area Sunday, we will be discussing vintage pen buying 101. We have a large number of, majority of our members of our pen club are modern pen collectors. You need to figure out a theme for your club next month. Your mind is blank. I'm just happy. We're scheduled out through October. You did that earlier this year. Yeah, and so what I do is I go through my process when I find vintage pens in the wild. What makes a quality pen? The vintage tiers that we've given, first tier, second tier, third tier, the big five, the big four, the big five. Whether pens are marked, how many times they're marked. Gold nib does not always equate to, first tier. Things like that. And then I'll have examples of various pens that you might find in the wild. So the difference between a 21 and a 51 and a 45 and, a duofold, and then some of the things to look for in those models. Problem areas, cracks in 21 hoods, celluloid issues, degradation. Briefly discussed casein, but it doesn't really come up that much. You did it as a roundtable discussion with 3 experienced vintage collectors. So like the Paul Arano thing, yeah. It was interesting to hear about the differing processes. Yeah. You bought a pen wrap of pens with each major flaw you typically see. Yep. They had to tell us what was. Oh, that's an interesting idea. Have them tell them what's wrong with them. Yeah. That's a good idea. I like that. My problem when I did this in St. Louis was, despite having, I brought 2 sets of 2 trays with pretty much identical pens. So, there was, each tray had a 45, a 21, a 51, celluloid problem, I don't remember what was all in them. I can't remember. An Esterbrook, a couple of the different kinds of Esterbrooks and things like that. Was, you can't be talking about it and have, it's, even though I was passing it around, not everybody can see everything all at the same time. So that didn't work out so well. And I didn't really want to do a PowerPoint, presentation or something. But we talk, I'll talk about, because, you get a lot of people, and I get it a lot when we had a store, we get it all the time. Somebody come in, oh, I bought this pen, and yeah, it's missing the cap, or yeah, it's missing the nib, or it's missing this part, or this part's cracked, but I figure you can fix that. No. It's a lot of information for people to take on, but it's a good, I think there's some real basics in if people take notes. You had the pens numbered and asked attendees to write notes about each. After the tray went around, you compared notes. Oh, that's a good idea. We got a pretty small club. Of course, when I do that, it's going to end up being 30 people or something at the club meeting. But it ends up being a couple of really pretty easy things to sink your teeth into. And one had no flaws just to mix it up. That's a really good idea. I like that. That's kind of fun. Was that in addition to did you have a sample, kind of a sample tray of, this is what a 51 looks like, and this is a skyline and things like that, or that was what you kind of sent? We don't have enough vintage collectors in our club to do a roundtable discussion. Oh, that's for sure. I can think of one, one guy. I'm always glad to see him, because he usually has something that, I don't know where he gets his pens, but he usually finds something. Everybody else just brings, like, grandma's pens or something, and if that's the case, it doesn't matter what it is. The entire discussion doesn't matter. 6 pens, cracked cap, cracked barrel, cracked nib, no tipping, celluloid decay, missing jewel, and a perfect pen. Okay. Yeah, I like that. I like that idea. Let's see if I can. I was just this morning, I was going through some of the pens we got this last weekend, and taking out the pens I'm going to send, the vacs I'm going to send for repair, trying to find some caps and some of the other pens, and some of the junkers that I know I'm not going to do anything with. Pulled the Conklin nib out of the wherever, at least try to get, I eliminated 2 trays out of the 5 that I had. Having people evaluate rather than talk about it was very successful. That's a really, really good idea. I like that a lot. Thank you for the suggestion. Did we have a good haul of pens on the weekend trip? Yeah, we did. It was about 120 pieces. But only maybe 50 or 60 decent pens out of the bunch. A bunch of pencils. Some kind of like 4th tier garbage. A pocket knife. And an elephant bottle opener. You could even print out a numbered form identifying each pen and leaving space for notes, but that's a lot of work. Yeah, I'm gonna actually write this down now because I'm gonna forget it. So you had six pens. Cracked cap, found one of those this weekend. Cracked barrel, found one of those this weekend. No tipping, found one of those this weekend. Celluloid decay. Missing jewel. I might do that in addition to identification. Because I thought being able to identify certain models make it subtle at the base. Yeah, I have a kind of a perfect one. Well, it's not subtle. I've got a gold bond from this weekend. That has a crack at the base of the nib. But I think the problem sometimes you get is if you try to tell people, okay, well, here's the big 4, then they'll buy every Parker they find, and Parker made plenty of junk pens, plenty. They buy every Schaefer they can find. Well, I hate to tell you this, but your Schaefer school pens is not not worth much. So yeah, the weekend haul was okay. It was kind of funny because Lisa was a little worried. She said, it's weird because you're not excited. We drove a long way. She says, you're not excited about this. I said, well, there's not a single $200 pen in the whole bunch, You identify the 6 pens, yeah, I get the identification. For every 3 script certs, one's actually decent. Ask you how you know, yeah. Or just the same, for every 3 script certs, one happens to be a wherever lady fair, right? Have a filling system handout too, but I would need permission to share it. That might be beyond the scope of it. Yeah, nah, that's not going to be. I just want them to. I want them to find the pens and then give them to me and pay me to restore them. Is what I want, right? Toss in a Franken. I like that. That's a good idea too. A little Franken pen action. That's not a terrible idea. You've not fallen into the wherever trap? Actually, you know, some of the lady fairs are really nice. They have that that transparent feed, open nib. And of course, they came with little pouches too. So it has taken me forever to restore these pens. I don't know why. Probably because I want to polish these now too before I even get them. You love it when you find the lady fairs? They're kind of fun. I wouldn't dismiss them completely if they were the right price. And they had a cartridge. They had an original cartridge in it. I think some of them are just as nice looking as the script shirts. I mean, they may not have gold nibs, but I once used to have a wherever collection. I uh, I I wised up and got rid of most of them. They made some real colorful pens though. In fact, the one pen we picked up this weekend that had the Conklin Toledo nib in it was actually a really nice pattern. Um, and you know, if I find a good nib for it, I might actually put it together and sell it. It might be a good pen. Tell the club your advisory group came up with the idea. Yeah, yeah, I will definitely give credit where credit is due. I think there's something to be said for improving your curriculum and your presentation. You know, I want them to, even if they never, if they don't intend on going out, you know, if their neighbor comes over and says, "Hey, listen, you know, I found these in the attic. Do you want them?" They'll have some clue as to what might have value and what might not. You know, I don't want to just spend 45 minutes yapping my mouth and then, you know, have people just go, "Well, thank God that's over." You know, like we had a special guest earlier in the year and it was kind of a pen adjacent topic and I wasn't all that interested and it was just like I could have gone to sleep. So I want anybody at the club to have the same experience. But I know most of them have been interested in vintage to some degree. they've either brought them to me, one or two actively do run across them. What is this, Waterman with a 10 on the nib? It's worthless. Pass it over to me. You take any pen on the website you want. I'm thankful enough that I came away with a 58 already this year, so that was a good pen club meeting. You always tell the club to beware evaluation of someone who wants to buy the pen you're asking about. Yeah. Yeah, and it is kind of a touchy subject, right? I mean, I buy and sell pens, but I also I also collect pens, so second opinions are always worth the time. Yeah. Where's the problem you run into, I suppose, is that you have to find qualified opinions. It's one thing to find somebody who knows the value of pens, but it's a completely another thing to find somebody who knows the values and knows what doesn't actually sell. You know just enough to run into trouble. Still a baby annoying pen. And that's, yeah. Sometimes only one person knows a particular brand. I mean, I still, I do it all the time. Hans, you're gonna get a text message in about a week when I get a new shipment of pens that are coming in. Because I mean, short of going on eBay and looking for sold prices on some of these, you're a better gauge for what actually should be the price, and they're going to be desirable. I've got a new consigner that's going to be sending me some things. Yeah, you've priced a lot. Yeah, these you'll know right off the top of your head. I know you will. But when I saw, so what I got was long-term client too. Long-term client. I mean, I, 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 I can't even remember. I mean, it's a decade at least. And yeah, just ask when you need to know things. And he decided it's getting to the point where he needs to trim things down. And he sent me his entire collection, the list. It's ridiculous. It's like if I had, um, like you would expect it to be after multiple decades of buying pens. And he says, I don't know where to start. He says, why don't you pick 10 pens that you think you can sell? I'm like, oh, okay. Page one, number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, number 7. Page 2, number 1, number 2, you know. And, not always the most expensive thing there. Stuff that I thought was interesting. He has one of those Edison Garolite Colliers, which I think was a really super cool pen. We had them when they came out. They were a production line pen, limited edition. I managed to have one of them not too long ago came in on consignment. You will expect a lot of Monteverdi and Modern LeBouf. No. In this lot, no. Um, a large number of limited edition Vanishing Points and um, things like that. Oh, I did get a Monteverdi today. All right, I don't think this is going to get much better. I don't know if it did anything or not. Still looks ugly. I may just swap it out with another barrel, quite frankly. We'll see how good I can get the polish here before I go into the effort of sizing a sack for a pen I'm not going to use. I think those are coming next week, maybe. Modern LeBouf. Oh my goodness. This is just not. I don't think that's good enough. Ooh, this might be a good candidate. So this is ridiculous. Um, so I've got. Normally, I'd say I don't really care, but it's a clipless pen, so it really has to be. And there's only so much you can do with the cap. Like this one's got this little stain mark running around it. But this cap is pretty decent. Um, that is infinitely better. It's got a little bit of spread there, but it's not as bad. And this cap is bad on this one. It's got a chip jewel. So yeah, hard to find color than it doesn't appear. It's not that. It's actually not a hard to find color. This is maybe one of the most common pastel colors there is. What makes this pen stupidly hard to find and stupidly valuable is this cap. It's the clipless version. They're not available. You can probably go all year to every pen show and you won't find one. You will not find one. But it uses obviously the same barrel as the clip version. So yeah, I'm not surprised because number one, they don't show up in any advertising anywhere. And I don't know if they just weren't popular. I've only ever seen them in 3 colors. Yellow, this yellow, the light blue, and then there's a tan. So this is a mismatch. That doesn't have a section, but let's see if it's. Yeah. That's a little rough, but is that a better barrel than? Not really. And it's the later lever, so I'm going to say pass on that one. So far, this one is. And if these are good and complete, we're not going to. Good imprint. I mean, that might be just a winner. I don't want to mess around too much. No. That one's got stickers. I think we're going to do this. Now I've got the problem where I've got, I've got the staining on here, but I guess I would rather have staining and maybe some of that will come off. And this is really a pretty good match. Yeah, let's try this. Yeah, I think that's what we're going to do. Then we don't need this J-bar. Yeah, it's a rare pen. Yeah, I kind of know how that was going to come across. And I might have more. I might have parts barrels, but I'm just going to be spending. I mean, it's just like someone's going to buy this pen, and for the money they're going to pay, they should get a really, really nice clipless. Because you're not going to find another one. I just wish we could find documentation that said Esterbrook made these 6 colors or these 12 colors or whatever, you know. But I haven't really dug into it thus far too deep. But all the standard documentation doesn't even get into it. I mean, they don't even get into the pastels much to begin with. Technically, would it be a Franken pen? No, not really. Because the only difference between the 2 pens is the cap. The clip, actually. Is the exact same barrel. Just a couple more minutes, and then I'm going to have to blow out of here. J-bar looks pretty ugly. You have a new repair challenge this afternoon. Reattach the gold overlay thing on a Delta Fusion nib. They will be glued on somehow. I bet it will be pain. Yeah. Well, I wish I could help you. I remember when they first came out. I remember my first shipment I had to reject. I rejected 2 or 3 of them because there was a gap in between the gold thing. I think that's what we need to call it, the gold thing, and the steel nib. And it just looked awful. Delta wants nothing to do with them now. Yeah, I bet they do. Well, you know, they put it on damn near everything. That's what really honked me off is they were really, I don't know if they were so heavily invested in it that all of a sudden every single pen had this stinking nib on it. You know, indigenous people, Dolce Vita, all had this Fusion nib. Like you had a pen called the Fusion. And now it's significantly less special because you put it on everything. And it looked goofy on, you know, it looked goofy on a Dolce Vita. It looked great on a Fusion 82. Is that what it's on? You got a Fusion 82? That's a super cool pen. One of my favorites. Great materials those 82s had. You have no clue what the 3 pens are called? Does it have a weird silver clip? Really cool celluloid. Thank you for the follow. Mod Light. Yeah, it's got a weird clip where it flattens out and then it. Yeah, it's probably it's probably the 82. I came across a box for one the other day, by the way, if you need it. That's not too bad. A little bit of discoloration. The amount of adhesive residue on it is terrifying. Yeah, send me a picture if when you get a chance. Actually, let me look here real quick. Is it your pen or is it somebody else's? Oh, okay. If you've never seen the box for a Fusion 82, it is pretty cool. It had sort of like a design on the outside that looked like a blueprint for the nib. It was really neat, and it was like this acrylic sandwich almost. And then there was foam inside, and then the pen kind of floated in between the foam. It was really neat. You know, it'd be nice if Delta would just tell you what the hell they used. Yeah, it was a little bit too flat on the end. He uncapped him after a few years and the gold things fell out. He owns dozens of Deltas. You would think the company would help. Yeah. Well, it's not the same company, right? It's not really the same company. It took me forever to get a feed for my oversized Dolce Vita. And it was the weirdest accident ever. And I felt so bad. Um, my buddy Dave was reorganizing the display at the store, and the pen was sitting upright on an acrylic display, and he bumped it, and it literally just went boom. Opened the cap, and the feed broke. Like, I mean, it literally went like that. I mean, and then he opened it up, and the feed broke on it. He felt so. He's like, "Well, I understand if you need to, take it out of my paycheck." I'm like, "Don't be silly. Go in the fridge, get the beer. Let's drink a beer." All right. Yeah, one in a million. I mean, it was stupid. I mean, it had to have been. It was obviously flawed to begin with. I mean, I appreciate the fact that he's like, "Well, you just take it out of my paycheck." I'm like, no. I know. I'm gonna do that. All right. Well, it's taken a while, but we're almost at the point where we're gonna sack these up. I just don't want to start it now. We'll do it tomorrow. I got a couple other pens over here. I can probably non-Esterbrook's that I will probably and maybe I'll start on some of those Schaefer's touchdowns from this past weekend, maybe tomorrow. But it'd be nice to get these a little bit further along, get these done. I know Ellen's chomping at the bit for maybe one of these. I don't know, maybe all three. Maybe she'll take all three. So anyway, so tomorrow, what do we got tomorrow? Let's run this through. We'll sack these. That'll be good. We'll find some nibs for them. This guy's going out today. That's done. We'll reassemble. We can reassemble this guy. I need to spin it out. I forgot to spin it out. And then those are done. And we'll see what else. Who knows? Maybe I'll get something else in the mail tomorrow. Probably not all three. All right. Well, a salesman loses all three sales if he doesn't ask for it, right? And if you don't want any of them, that's cool too. So, never any pressure. You've just been motivation for me to get working on these. But anyway, and if you want to, I know you sent me an email about it. You want to shoot me an email if there's one of these that is of particular interest, and since I have to put a nib in it anyway, why don't we put something more like what you're thinking of? I mean, if you don't want an extra fine, let's not put an extra fine nib in it, right? So, shoot me an email with. We've got a transitional flat barrel end. We've got the standard SJ size in red and black. I assume you probably want the red. Price, of course, is determined on what the nib is, but so just shoot me an email, or I'll try to remember to shoot you an email later. I probably won't be tonight. But if you want to do that, great. If not, I will reach out too, because I don't want to put something in you don't want. Yeah, no extra fine. All right. We'll save those for, who was it? Indy likes, Indy Dragonfly likes those, I think. So anyway. All right. Okay, so that's it for today. I can hear my email dinging in the background, so I probably have 100 emails I got to read. And your husband uses the nails. All right, well, he can continue to use the nails. Have a great night, Jason, Hans, you too. I hope everyone has a good evening, good afternoon, a good morning, wherever you are in the world. And yeah, I knew you loved the extra fine. Yeah. Good night, Ellen. Glenn, take care. We will see you tomorrow. Tomorrow's what, Thursday, so last repair stream of the week. I'll come up with something fun tomorrow. Have a great rest of the night. Yep. So anyway, be kind, always be well, and we'll catch y'all tomorrow. All right. Take care, everyone. Bye now.